10:32, and I will now call this meeting to order. I have asked Director Dindal to open us in prayer, please.
Thank you. Please pray with me. Father, first of all, we thank you for the opportunity to live in this great city, Lord. Lord, please direct our minds and our thoughts on the business at hand, and that we take care of the monies that we're entrusted with wisely. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you. Now to public comment. Issues or items that are not on the agenda may be raised by the public at this time. Citizens should speak from the podium, begin by stating their name, and limit remarks to less than 3 minutes. Board members may request that a discussed item be placed on a future agenda. The board takes public comment on all regular agenda items during the discussion of those items. Do I have any public comment? Good morning.
Good morning, Board. Nora Navarez, Economic Development Assistant. I just wanted to provide y'all an update about the business plan competition. You may recall that on August 5th, that was the deadline. And so on August the 5th, by noon, we were like, okay, are we going to receive any? We had received about 7 already. Right before 5 o'clock, we have a total of 30 that we received. So 30 business overviews. Myself, Shannon, Dave, and Vince Mangano, we reviewed those, and out of those 30, we selected 9 to proceed to phase 2. So it's really encouraging to know that our community has a lot of entrepreneurs and has great ideas out there. So it's great to be able to provide this for our community. So I just wanted to provide that update to you.
How many were last year?
Last year we
Total that we had turned in.
Last year we had a total of, I don't remember. 19. Mm-hmm.
Great. Well done.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other public comment? And I will move to the consent agenda. Consider approving July 24th, 2019 meeting minutes. Consider approving the necessary corporation disbursements. Consider approving the July 2019 financial statements. Consider authorizing release of lien relating to Lot 3, Block 2, Allendale Additional, City of San Angelo, generally known as 610 West 19th. Presentation by Bob Salas.
No presentations, consent.
So does that need to be moved out of the consent?
No, it's just under the consent items,
Okay.
I think, yeah. So in saying that, move for approval of consent items A through D.
I'll second.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Moving now to the regular agenda item. A, consider approving a resolution of the City of San Angelo Development Corporation supporting the designation of an expansion of the Central Texas Corridor as part of the I-14 Gulf Coast Strategic Highway System. Presentation by Mr. Guy Andrews. Good morning.
Good morning. As you'll recall, we're a member of the I-14 Gulf States Strategic Highway Coalition, and we've been asked to present this resolution in support of the activities of it. I won't go through the whole resolution. You've got that in your packet. Down to through all the whereases and that sort of thing, but this is identical to a packet that the City Council has already passed, and so we'd like to have approval of that resolution so that we can include it in a packet of information that'll be going to the federal government in support of the I-14 coalition.
Fantastic. Sooner the better. Do I have a motion?
I'll motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, sir. Moving on to B, consider resolution authorizing the use of sales and use tax funds in an amount not to exceed $638,861 for affordable housing and assistance program to assist low-income qualifying homeowners in rehabilitation of residential structures damaged citywide by the E2 tornado occurring on May 18th, 2019. A project authorized under Chapter 505 of the Texas Development Corporation Act for projects related to affordable housing, and authorizing the board president to negotiate and execute a memorandum of understanding with the City of San Angelo to effect the project. Morning.
Good morning. I'm not Bob Salas.
I was about to say.
Bob Schneeman with the Economic Development. The board may recall, this is an item we discussed several times now. It started out with Matt Lewis suggesting that we look at trying to do some funding for storm recovery. We discussed it at length at the last board meeting, and the board decided to have us bring it back as a project. In order to, where I'm going here. There we go. In order to allocate funds, we have to, the board needs to declare it as a project, and then it needs to be advertised, or public notice has to be filed, and after 60 days after public notice, then the funds can be expended. We had significant storm damage to the city. The Bradford area had $652,000 in damage, estimated damage. Total reconstruction in just the Bradford area, 3 houses is going to cost about $360,000, including demolition. About 14 residences that need some rehab, and that's been estimated at $170,500, and then 27 houses with roof damage, and estimated at $121,500. 63% of the folks affected did not have insurance. There's a couple of pictures of some of the damage that was experienced, and you can see it's pretty significant damage. The board, at the last meeting, made a motion to fund up to $1 million, including the already allocated funds for affordable housing. And so that's basically what this item is. And it also requires memorandum of understanding between COSA DC and the city so that the city can administer that program through the affordable housing folks. Any questions?
Questions from the board?
Looked like there was a total of 44 homes in the breakdown right there. It still goes through a process of folks going and applying and all that. So it could potentially be more or
Could potentially
less.
be more. This is open because of the nature of the funding. It is open citywide. However, any applicant must meet affordable housing criteria. And they have a list now, Bob Solis tells us, that would probably more than use up the funding that we've got.
Would entertain a motion.
Move.
Second. Any other discussion?
What is the motion exactly?
It's
Resolution.
Approve a resolution
to approve a resolution for 600 and I don't have the exact
It's
number.
38,861. Do you move as it reads? Yes, sir. Okay. I have a second. Any other discussion from the board? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Bob. On item C, public hearing regarding the use of sales and use tax funds in an amount not to exceed $1,100,000 to provide an economic development incentive to the U.S. Customs and Border Protection Air and Marine Operations with participation by the City of San Angelo for a project authorized under Chapters 501 and 505 of the Local Government Code for Type B development corporations. Good morning.
Good morning, Board. Shannon Scott, Business Retention and Expansion Coordinator for the city. As President Cole stated, this particular item is in regards to a public hearing for the USCBPAMO. This project was approved, I believe, a couple months ago by the board, and of course, according to Section 505.159 of the Local Government Code, we are required to conduct a public hearing. Just to give a little bit of an overview on the project that was approved, again, this is going to be for some improvements out at the airport for the Border Protection Air Marine Operations. So again, the breakdown of the costs, we have about $78,000 for the mobilization and pollution control, roughly $821,000 for paving and drainage, The pre-engineered building completion is going to cost roughly $45,000. And then, of course, with a 10% contingency at roughly $95,000. So that comes to about 1.039. However, we're asking for just a little bit of leniency with the 1.1 million. Of course, we've got the option, if we choose to do some cheaper, choose some cheaper options, we have potentially the ability to lessen that amount at $858,000. But again, the amount that was approved was 1.1 million. Just to reiterate, this could potentially hire up to 60 additional jobs with a $120,000 average salary for those positions. So I'd be happy to answer any questions on this. If not, to close the public hearing or open the public hearing.
Is this, they're going to receive these funds once those jobs are created?
I believe it's once the improvements are made. Is that correct?
No, in this case, what we'll do is we'll put the project out to bid, select from the respondents, and then the airport will basically administer the construction project, and Costa DC will be the funding source. Effectively, the contractor won't get paid until he does the work, but he doesn't have to do all of it. I mean, it'll be billed probably on a monthly basis.
What I like about this is the 60 jobs at $120,000 a year.
Right.
I don't know about giving $1.1 million and then them say, oh, we're not going to hire anybody. That's my question. Are these funds only going to be given out if those jobs are given and created?
I don't think the agreement is structured that way, is it? So potentially with the improvements, they have the ability to hire up to the 60 positions, but we're not actually incentivizing them for the positions. It's more for the construction and improvements.
It's a, here you go, and we hope that they create those jobs.
The improvements will belong to the airport. Our agreement is actually between Costa DC and the airport, because the federal government basically will not sign a performance agreement under any circumstances. So to a certain extent, we are acting on good faith, but according to their plan, their operations plan, that's where the 60 jobs and everything comes from. And they are planning on consolidating most or all of their air and marine operations in San Angelo.
I would just add that these improvements are designed for enhancing or bringing in those jobs, so they're directly related to that. So we would assume that they're going to expend the funds, and we're going to expend funds to make these improvements, that they're proceeding with the bringing in the unmanned aerial vehicle operations out of Corpus Christi into San Angelo.
Do they have a current lease right now?
They do.
How long is it?
I believe it's 5 years.
When was it signed last?
Sorry?
When will the 5 years be up?
I don't have that in front of me, I'm sorry. They have also spent about $2.5 million of federal funds on permanently installing the radar dishes and what have you, and improvements to the inside of the hangar. So that in itself, I think, shows a pretty strong commitment by the federal government that they intend to be here.
Questions, concerns? I would entertain a motion.
Opening up a public hearing.
Just to open it up.
Oh, I'm sorry. I would like to open a public hearing at this time. Nobody? All right, I will now close the public hearing. Thank you very much, Shannon.
Thank you.
Moving to D, public hearing regarding the use of sales and use tax funds in an amount not to exceed $59,000 to provide an economic development incentive to West Texas Steel for a project related to business enterprises that create or retain primary jobs, as authorized for a Type B corporation under Local Government Code, Chapter 504, Subchapter C. Presentation by Shannon Scott.
Thank you. So along the same lines as the last agenda item, this is for a public hearing for West Texas Steel, which again was a project that was approved last month at the board meeting and then subsequently approved or ratified by City Council a couple of weeks ago at their meeting. And again, just to go over the details of this project, so they are anticipating expending up to about $750,000 for the construction of a new building. And I will point out, I believe last month when I presented this, the square footage of the building was wrong. It was 12,000 foot, but I was corrected. It's actually going to be 36,000 square foot. So a substantial, sizable increase in the size of that building. So along with the capital investment, they do have 20 current employees, and they do anticipate hiring up to 3 additional employees within the next 3 years, having an average salary of $41,600. Again, the incentive package that was approved by the board last month includes $50,000 once the capital investment of the $750,000 is made for the construction of that new building. They must retain the 20 current core jobs that they have, and we will be offering them $3,000 per new full-time equivalent position that they do create for a total incentive package of $59,000. So with that, I would ask to open the public hearing.
We'll open the hearing at this time. Is there any public comment? Nope. The capital investment is for
the building.
building and equipment. Okay.
Right. But it's all what is assessed on the tax roll.
That's correct.
Very good. Any comment from the public? I will now close the public hearing. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on to E, a resolution of the City of San Angelo Development Corporation Board of Directors authorizing the use of sales and use tax funds in an amount not to exceed $70,000 to provide an economic development incentive to Double Barrel Outfitters LLC for a business retention and expansion program, project related to business enterprises that create or retain primary jobs as authorized for a Type B corporation under Local Government Code Chapter 505, Subchapter D.
Thank you. So again, as President Cole stated, this is asking for the approval of a resolution for a new project for Double Barrel Outfitters. So just to give a little background information on this company and what they do. So they specialize in the fabrication of hunting and outdoor products, as well as metal fencing, gates, carports, home decor, and furniture. Their expansion will include a new 7,500 square foot building that will be located at 4745 South Chadbourn, which is in Councilman Hebert's district. The current building that they have, I believe it's somewhere off of Jackson Street, and they're leasing that building. So this will actually be, they've purchased the land. They will be, of course, buying this building and building it out instead of leasing. And this is the location that the new building will be at. So currently, they have 13 full-time employees. They anticipate hiring at least 4, but up to 20 within the next 3 years to help aid with this expansion. The average salary of their employees is $40,000. Of their anticipated capital investment for that 7,500 square foot building is $750,000. So the incentive package that we're proposing today includes a $50,000 capital investment grant once that $750,000 is made for the construction of their new building. They must retain their current 13 employees, and then we're proposing $1,000 per full-time equivalent for up to the 20 jobs for a total incentive package of $70,000. And again, as you all know, for each project that we are offering incentives for, we have to run through an economic impact analysis. So for this particular project, with the incentives that we're proposing, it will generate an $8.3 million annual economic output, as well as a $3.4 million annual gross annual product, and a payback period of 6.6 years. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions or concerns from the board?
Just to clarify, did you say 70,000?
70?
Yeah.
The incentive on the paper here, on the bottom it says 59.
Yes, it'd be a total incentive package for $70,000.
Okay.
The $59,000 would be for West Texas Steel.
There you go.
Cool. All right, thank you.
Okay. And they're hoping to create 20 jobs?
At least 4, but up to 20. So of course, we can incentivize for up to the 20 positions.
All right, sounds good. I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Of a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Moving on to line item F. Hold on.
As of September 1st, we'll take public comment on every item, but
September 1st, we're going to take public comment on every item.
right, the rule is that public comment, it will be required for any item, whether it's on the agenda or they can, at public comment time, they can bring up anything, but anything on the agenda, we would take public comment on that, so that will include resolutions.
Okay. Moving on to F, consider approving the First Amendment to the 2018-19 Costa DC Chamber of Commerce Professional Service Agreement. Presentation by Guy Andrews.
Currently, the agreement we have with the chamber would expire on September 30th of this year. It's our desire to put that on a annual basis. So what we are proposing is to amend our current contract to expire on December 31st of this year. Then we would come back in January with a new contract for the chamber that would run from January 1st through December 31st of 2020.
Okay. So this is just extending the current contract we have with them out
Right.
to the end of the year.
For 3 months, that's correct.
Starting in January, we will start over with a new one, and that contract will then run from January to December from here on out.
That's correct.
How does that affect our fiscal year? Because our fiscal year is different. It doesn't start in January.
Right, it won't, we're not anticipating making any budget changes until the new year in conjunction with this contract, so it won't have an impact on the current fiscal year. We already have, in the budget that would be approved for 2019, this coming up in October, the funding would remain at $225,000 until we amended it with the new contract.
Questions, comments? I would entertain a motion.
Move for approval of the First Amendment to 2018-2019 Costa DC Chamber of Commerce Professional Service Agreement, extending their current contract from September 30th, 2019 to December 31st, 2019.
All right.
Second.
I have a second. Any other comment? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Moving on. Thank you, Guy. Line item G, presentation of the Chamber of Commerce third quarter report, April-June 2019. Presentation by Mr. Michael Looney, the one and only.
Right. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for having us out this morning. All right. All right, we are going to do the third quarter. This is the April through June report 2019 of activity generated by the San Angelo Chamber of Commerce Economic Development Division. We work very closely in conjunction with Costa DC, as you all know. In case anybody who's watching this doesn't know, the Economic Development Division of the Chamber has an advisory committee comprised of 6 people. Sabrina Tash, Dr. Clifton Jones of Angelo State University, Randy Brooks, Chris Evett with First Financial Bank, Wendell Hirschfeld with Wendland Tank, and Kevin Dostal of Industrial Hydraulic Corporation. These are our partners. You recognize all of them. This is the Costa DC staff. We work every day in conjunction with the staff at Costa DC. We also work with the Tom Green County Commissioners Court. We work very closely with them as well. Sometimes there are projects that are outside of the city limits that we do work on. And so we have a very good relationship with both Costa DC and with the Tom Green County Commissioners. What we do for San Angelo. The Economic Development Division provides consistent, very active daily support of our industrial sectors, our industrial companies, and we recruit within these different diverse sectors. So we're focused not just on what is obvious, which would be the energy sector, because that's what we have so close to us with our proximity to the Permian Basin. But we pay special close attention to the urgency to make sure that when we do recruit companies and support existing operations, industrial operations in San Angelo, that it also incorporates other kinds of manufacturing, including agriculture as well. That's something that is a huge foundational base of our economy in San Angelo, and so we pay attention to that as well. The objective is to create new capital investment, which then results in the creation of new jobs, new careers. We do this through a program which most of you are very familiar with called the San Angelo Regional Manufacturers Alliance. This is a project that we kicked off in 2017. It's been very successful. This is a project that mirrors what most major cities have, and that is a very well-oiled, functioning industrial manufacturers association. It promotes the program, which is run through the chamber, promotes manufacturing, the agricultural sector, and the energy services sector. We have over 100 companies on our database. Our monthly meetings usually contain between 10 to 15 companies per month from a variety of different economic sectors, but they're all heavy industrial companies. And then, of course, we do work with Costa DC. We work very closely with the Permitting and Planning Division when we're shepherding transactions through the processes. And so we make sure that they understand that we consider them to be part of our economic development partnership. And then, of course, Tom Green County Commissioners are very instrumental in our success as well. Yes?
Sorry. When companies sign up for SARMA, is that put on a quarterly basis?
Well, the meetings are held monthly. We host evening meetings, and we do it in the evenings so people can come in. We tried luncheons, and not very many people came out because they're all at work. Yeah. And so what we do is we do evening meetings once a month, and then we have socials usually every quarter at a different facility throughout town.
So in this third quarter, did we have some new signups?
Oh, yes, we did. Yes, I don't have a list of them, but we'll usually bring in 2 to 3 companies per quarter that become much more in the program because they're starting to see the value of it. When we started the program in 2017, it was an unknown. It was considered to be by some, another function of the chamber, which is great, but this really doesn't focus. This doesn't focus on a lot of the chamber's main areas of focus, which is really retail. And a lot of companies that try to maintain their presence and their dollars within the immediate economic ecosystem. These are companies that we may have had in town for 60 years, but no one knows about them, or unless you work for them, you really wouldn't know much about them because they're importing those dollars into the community. So it's kind of that quiet platform, that quiet base that really is essentially the very platform that our economy is built upon. And so we've been very successful in gathering more companies into the program.
Okay. Are there any dues associated with this, or is it covered through the chamber?
There are not, no. We do not have dues. We do have sponsorships. Most of the members of the SARMA are encouraged to join the chamber, and many do. There are some that have not yet. I think they're still exploring value. And frankly, a lot of these companies are very, very large companies. And so joining the chamber means they have to go through many steps through the chain of command to, say, New York or Chicago. And we run into that actually quite a bit at the chamber. Little local companies, small local companies can make a decision, on the hood of a truck, but in a lot of the cases with these really large corporations, it's kind of the process. But we don't stop them at that. We don't turn them away at the door. We need their input and their investment and the information that we gather from them just as much as they need us. And so we're really, over the past 2 years, have really shown that value. And our board understood that we would have to show that value up front first, which we have.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
This is the third quarter report from April to June.
Well,
is that not second quarter?
The second, I think we're on second quarter, but I saw the preamble showed a third quarter report. So this is the third. Well, the information is still excellent, so. We're gonna
I
keep-
just noticed that.
Yeah, we're gonna keep on trucking, so, one of the things that has helped with our program is that when you have a collection, a constellation of different industrial companies throughout the region, all working together, all talking together, it creates a dialogue, and that creates an understanding of what the barriers are, what the needs are from an infrastructure standpoint, roadways, water access, highway weight limits, things like that, permitting and planning issues, TCEQ issues, EPA issues, workforce training. And so what happens is we end up finding that we're providing a tremendous value to these companies that otherwise didn't really know where to look for help. And what ends up happening is we end up getting a lot of suppliers that they work with that are shown to us, that come to us, that end up joining what I called our economic spectrum, our economic ecosystem. So really we have companies, industrial companies, helping us to recruit other industrial companies by really helping navigate what companies they're familiar with that they find to be very solid, stable, solvent companies that they work with from a supply chain standpoint. And it's a little bit easier to recruit companies when they already have a relationship or some kind of a knowledge of our market. And so we found that to really produce a very good velocity of transactions that we look at each quarter, depending on which quarter it is, and then also a good traction level. So when we interview these companies, we start working with these companies, we find that we have a good capture rate. Some of the chamber successes, SMC Global Corporation, which you're all very familiar with, they are now fully functional in their third expansion space, which is the old R.G. Berry building at 2801 Loop 306. COCDC did approve assistance of $200,000 over a 5-year period. This is performance-based. This is for personal property and inventory in the amount of capital investment of $3.3 million minimum. They have to retain at least 5 jobs. They currently have 11 employees. They're currently, their pay scale is around $60,000 per year plus benefits. They have $660,000 total San Angelo employee salaries. That's of the 11. And on the bottom 2 lines, you'll see that when we ran an economic analysis, it supports $5.7 million in annual economic impact, $3.8 million annually in gross annual product. This is a project that the incentives program that was granted, the performance-based incentives program that was granted by COCDC to SMC Global. This was the only incentives offering that was made to them. The other 2 facilities that they captured in 2018, there were no incentives requested, no incentives granted. It was just purely on their belief in the strength of the market. So this hasn't been a very heavily assisted transaction throughout their history, which has been pretty short here, but very robust. These are some pictures of the 2801 building. We're really proud of this deal because this was a request that we received from them right after they'd moved into tractor trails and into their facility their manufacturing facility on Cristoval Road. They took down 2 pieces of property on those 2 roads that I just mentioned that had been defunct for a couple of years. They were not used. And then they called me and said that it is time for another expansion, and they needed around 100,000 square feet, but they didn't have time to build a building. And so we worked very closely with a real estate broker his name is Steve Morris, who had heard of this building. This is owned by the Alexander family. And this was the old R.G. Berry building, and it was built in 1969, rehabilitated in 1975. And then we think in the early 90s, R.G. Berry ceased operations. And they used to make little shoes. So it's a very large property. It can't be used for anything other than warehouse storage and manufacturing because it doesn't have very much parking around the apron of the property. So this is what it looked like, and it had only been occupied very briefly in recent history in 2008 when somebody stored cotton bales in it. The beauty of that was that they got all of the permits approved through the city, which still survive to this day, which made this transaction happen much more quickly because we didn't have to go through a very laborious permitting process. And this is what it looks like now. So the company has invested a lot of money into this property in order to get it back up to full functionality. And they are right now in the process of warehousing their chemicals, which don't last very long on property because a lot of that gets turned out. This raw material then gets sent to their manufacturing facility on Cristobal Road and is then shipped out into the Permian Basin. Allen's Transport. This is also another success. This is a project that we are right now currently waiting on a signed contract to come in from their Canadian office. We are working with Jerome Terletsky and with Alan Fandrick. These are the owners of the company. This is a company that was a derivative of one of our SARMA contacts. They are going to be a contract hauler for pipeline chemicals. And they're currently, right now, in the process of finalizing review and signature of the contract for 12 acres in the San Angelo Industrial Park. Purchase value is around $300,000. They're planning to construct a 25,000 square foot facility. It'd be a truck terminal with offices. And they will be hiring 10 employees at around $65,000 a year plus benefits. And they've told us that that employee count will start to go up much higher once they begin servicing the many contracts that they're in the process of negotiating. We don't know what that count will be, but they said it would be above the 10. Just to give an idea, I think it's important for the board to understand when we recruit a company, what is it that they're doing here? What is their focus? What is their reason? What was attractive? This company deals with anti-turbulence pipeline chemicals. It is a very lucrative business. Not very many companies do it. There are only 2 companies in the country that manufacture this chemical. One is in Houston. This is the company that they're going to be working with. Allen's is known throughout North America and especially in Canada as a premier hauler of very hazardous materials. Hazardous material hauling takes a certain type of driver, a certain type of equipment, trailer, and it takes a lot more work to get your licenses and permits in which to do it. Out here in the Permian, a lot of companies can do very well, hauling companies can do very well without having to go through the process of becoming registered to haul heavy loads of hazardous materials, so a lot of them don't. And that was one of the reasons why Allen's Transport found a market here, because they're filling a niche that a lot of our local regional haulers don't feel. It's just not economically necessary as far as they're concerned. So this gives you an idea of the pipelines that are currently operational in the Permian Basin. And this just is really just an example to show you which, just the breadth of the different long-distance pipelines that they will be servicing. I don't know if they have contracts with each one of these companies, but certainly they have a very deep database of pipeline companies and pipeline operators that they're working with. Now, one of the things that's important, if you look on the bottom here, is you look at 120 truck injection stations. Those are areas where they inject their chemical. This is the anti-turbulence chemical, and what it does is it speeds up and reduces friction as the product makes its way from the Permian Basin either up to Cushing, Oklahoma, or down to the Gulf Coast. And this speeds up the product's travel time to its destination, whether it's a crude export port or whether it's a refinery, by 25% to up to 30%, depending on the pressures and the viscosity of the actual product, which in this case is going to be crude oil. So we are very much involved with keeping our finger on the pulse with pipeline construction. They are continuing to come online. All you have to do is read any energy sector newsletter, and you will see that they are coming online, and there are many more that are in the process of being constructed. So we think this is a really good win for San Angelo. It's not a huge mega deal, but this is a company that most importantly has got a good reason to be here, a very long history of success, and they've got obviously a good future here. And so just kind of anecdotally, the 2 gentlemen that we're dealing with love San Angelo. They love the community. They're very happy to be here, and they've already got 5 people. I talked to them last week. They've got 5 people that are going to make the transfer from Edmonton down to San Angelo. So we're really happy with that. On prospect update, Recurrent Energy, this is one of the big solar power generation plants that we've been working with. They are just outside the city limits in the county. They have 2 different facilities that they're in the process of developing, one of which is under construction right now off 2288, just to the immediate western side of 2288, right near O.C. Fisher over by the state park. We did assist with the 313 and 312 agreements between the county, the independent school districts, and one of the projects, the 2 projects that Recurrent Energy is working on did require some city involvement, and so we did assist in that as well. So I'm going to kind of speed it up here a little bit. These are some images of the construction. Again, this is not going to be a very large job creation project. It's going to have 2 full-time employees at $45,000 a year, basically just doing maintenance and cleaning of the panels and light maintenance on the low-voltage electrical systems. But it does produce a very strong tax yield. This is Project Solar 3. This is another solar power generation plant that we are working with. This is a company based out of Europe. Again, we're assisting them with walking through the different steps required by the county in order to give any kind of a tax abatement. Now, when these companies are given a tax abatement, it is generally a tax abatement of 10 years of a 30-year contract. But that does not mean that the county or the ISDs make no money at all off the transaction, because they are, in turn, they agree upon what's called a pilot, a payment in lieu of taxes. And so this is a different funding source that is granted and paid by the power company to the county and then to the ISD as a separate agreement. And it's about 50% of what would be captured in taxes at full levy. And then once you get into year 11, the property is then taxed at a full levy. Another one, Project Power 621. This is yet another solar power generation plant that we have been working with. MAC 219, 2019, this is a steel products manufacturer from Germany. We have met 3 times in San Angelo with the U.S. representative, and we are discussing ways to collaborate and seek a facility for distribution in San Angelo. This is their way of penetrating the Southwest United States market, which they found to be one of their strongest markets. And we did, it's worth noting that when you sent me, the chamber sent me down to San Antonio to the San Antonio Manufacturers Association trade show. This was a direct result of that. They came to our booth, we met them, and we've had them in San Angelo 3 times. So right now we're tracking this, working with them very closely and trying to figure out exactly what kind of facilities need they have. Stop me if there's any questions. San Angelo Railport Program. We are right now obviously working very diligently with our contract assistant. This is our consultant, Shea Transportation. And we are right now kind of putting the rubber on the road by meeting with different companies in the area that have used rail or we think would like to use rail for their operations. And we have gotten good anecdotal feedback, which we are tracking on a spreadsheet as to what kind of capacity, car needs, and types of product they would conceivably haul into San Angelo and out of the area, using a much more robust rail port other than just a simple siding or transload facility, which is what we've got right now. So that is where we are on that. I did travel with Bob Schneeman and our consultant with Shea Transportation, Roger Horton. We went to Levelland, we went to Lamesa, and we went to Slayton to go inspect several smaller rail ports in the region, in the West Texas region, and all of them are reporting very strong results. We wanted to go put our eyes and ears on these projects and really try to understand exactly how they were formulated and how they're attracting tenants and what they're doing about volumes and expansion needs. And so they're all the three that we toured are all doing very well. And they're serving as magnets for more economic development and more corporate growth and more expansion in those regions. So they really do serve as an excellent tool for the expansion of his existing industry. And I wanted to add, that in the four companies that we've interviewed, we've interviewed many companies in San Angelo regarding rail shipping needs. There are 4 that have told us we're in. We want to be a part of this. And that was where we needed to study what kind of volumes and what kind of frequency they would have and what kind of materials they would want to haul in and haul out. Of these 4 companies, we discovered that they informed us that if this rail port is constructed when it goes into full functionality, it's very important for them to know this on the ground floor, as we've been doing, because it can radically change what their company plans are. SMC Global, for example, we had dinner with them last Monday. We had 3 of the guys in from New Jersey, and they said, if this thing happens, this will very greatly change how we think about the Concho Valley and the Permian Basin. So, thank you for letting us know that this is coming up, because this gives us a lot to think about too, for means of volume of production. So it's a good exercise that we're doing here. Little bit of last bit of information. Our Cornerstone program. This is a privately funded source of income that we raise each year. It supports about 1/3 of our budget. We also use those funds for things such as support of existing industry and existing companies. This was the Profit Mastery course, which is a $300 scholarship. We had 4 students that signed up for it. And so each quarter, or about each quarter, the Cornerstone program reinvests directly into our company base here in San Angelo by helping company owners become students and take courses through the SBDC and through the Texas Manufacturers Assistance Center, so that they can really internally support their own operations. So it's recruitment, but it's also investing in our existing companies by helping with things like training. This is just a list of some of the companies in the quarter that we have interacted with. We do consistent quarterly outreach. Shannon Scott and Jessica Hoydall and I will visit with different industrial companies each quarter, just to darken their door, to make sure that they know that we have their best interests in mind. This is aside from the SARMA meetings. Sometimes they can't make the functions that we have. And so we go to them, and we actually will take the meeting to them with a brochure and an understanding of that, so they know that we are there to support them and understand what needs they may have. And that's actually been really, really successful. It's amazing what some shoe leather and some direct eye-to-eye contact will do. One of the challenges we have with recruitment is housing. We learned that with U.S. Well Services in 2017, 2018, when the company said, we love San Angelo, we can't find a place for our people to live. That did solve itself, and we were very fortunate that we had several realtors who rallied and found properties that satisfied those needs. We are working with a company out of Austin that is in the process of developing a 250-unit cottage community. We believe that this is going to be a multifamily project that is different than a multi-level apartment complex. Nothing like this has been built in San Angelo that we could find. It is a cottage community. It is all rentals. It is not for sale. All of the front doors face each other. The streets behind are basically like an alleyway, and there's a green belt that meanders through the entire property. The idea is that when you have front doors all facing in on a green belt, it creates more of a community feel, a safer feel, and it encourages neighbors to get to know one another. The property will feature about a 10,000 square foot activity center and a small pool. This is a project that is not a HUD project. There is no incentive money. It is a market rate product. There's not going to be any subsidization, but these are not micro homes, but they are small cottages, and because of their square foot footprint, they are affordable. And so one of the things that the developers of Project Creek 27 were very concerned about is making sure that the ASU student, the single parent, the EMT officer, the Goodfellow enlisted Corps students have a place to live, and that they're priced in accordance with what we estimate their monthly stipends are. If you have any other questions on that community, I can certainly answer those. The two examples that we've been given, which I didn't put on this report, you would find in Seattle, Washington, King County, and then there's another one in Tucson that's very similar, has a more southwest look to it. But these are very high-density, compact cottage communities.
Where's it at?
This is going to be located on Loop 306, directly to as you're facing west on Loop 306, you're going to be looking directly to the left of Furniture Road, Denver Mattress Company. It's that piece of land right there. It's kind of a rust-colored, rusty dirt, red arroyo type dirt. And then if you keep moving further on past that, you'll have Texas Christian Learning Academy's campus on the western side of Loop 306. And construction is slated to begin in October. Again, this is just for your information. This was a snap from the May 7th through 8th SAMA trade show. And this is the trade show where we did collaborate with the company MAC 2019, and we met many others that we are still in contact with. This is another program that is very important for you to know about, that we support and put time into. This is the Texas Manufacturers Assistance Center. This is the Manufacturing Supervisor Certification course. We organized this in conjunction with our partners at Ethicon. We had 13 students attend. This is a week-long course. This is the same course that is taught to companies like Yokohama Tire, General Motors, Ford Motor Company, Sara Lee. And these are the courses. These are the exact same courses that they use to get these certifications. This total course package costs $40,000. TMAC gave it to us at no cost because they are reimbursed by the federal government as a service to manufacturing throughout Texas. Each state has its own version of the Texas Manufacturers Assistance Center. They are based at the Southwest Research Center on Culebra Road in San Antonio, Texas. We have another course that is planned, a lean manufacturing course planned for February. This is a really, really good way for us to help certify and take existing employees from companies like Ethicon, Pitts Oilfield Services, and Principal LED to higher levels, which helps them grow within the company. So again, this is investment, not just an external recruitment, but an internal assistance of our existing companies. And this course was at no charge to these students. And then finally, we were asked to participate with our partner, our new partner, Texas Midwest Community Network, which Guy is very, very involved with. And this was our Rural Economic Development course, where we were asked to come and talk about how to work with site selectors. And again, that was a very successful presentation, and that was held in Abilene. Lastly, I wanted to follow up just to give you, the board, a little bit of intel on what we're facing, one of the challenges we're facing. This is a facilities update. We keep a database of available facilities throughout San Angelo. This is a list of the facilities that have been leased or sold in the past 18 months. And so I didn't put the square footages on here, but this gives an idea of some of the companies that used to inhabit properties, that they went vacant and then they got recaptured by somebody else. And so this is a daunting list because we are running out of product. That is one of the main reasons why Allen's Transport is building a brand new facility in the industrial park because one of the properties that they liked got snapped up. So the market is moving very briskly, and finding that 20 to 50,000 square foot facility that has a mixture of office and maintenance facility is very tough to do. They're here, they're just leased, or they're owned by somebody else. That is the quarterly report, Chamber of Commerce, Economic Development Division. Any thoughts or questions you want to talk about?
Questions from the board?
A lot of activity.
Lots going on, yeah.
There is. All right, again, on behalf of the Board of Directors, we are grateful for the support and for the partnership, and we look forward to bringing you continued successes, and we want to thank you all again very much.
Thanks, Mike. Moving on to line item H, consider a resolution authorizing the board president to negotiate and execute a memorandum of understanding with the city of San Angelo providing funding not to exceed $13,000 for a project for air service marketing and recruitment services authorized under the Texas Local Government Code, Chapter 505 of the Promotion and Development of New or Expanded Business Enterprises that create or retain primary jobs, and authorizing the board president to negotiate and execute a memorandum of understanding with the city providing the economic development project terms. Presentation by Mr. Schneeman.
Thank you. This item is it's been sort of an ongoing thing with the board over the years. We've periodically have looked for ways to get another air carrier into San Angelo. As you know, we have one air carrier, and I believe we're at 5 or 6 flights a day, only to Dallas-Fort Worth area. We have a proposal from Centurion Planning and Engineering, who have worked on some of these other proposals as well. This is a fairly low-cost one, and the deliverables are fairly compressed, if you will. But anyways, according to their proposal, task one would be to review the information gathered during the airport master planning process. Remember, we've had quite a considerable amount of effort that's gone into the airport master plan. Compile that data and add additional data as required, and then prepare a PowerPoint presentation consisting of approximately 20 slides that can be used when we go out and talk to an airline. Task two would be to schedule a meeting with United Airlines at their world headquarters in Chicago to prepare the city and COSA DC staff for that meeting, and they would also accompany our staff to that meeting with up to two members of their staff to promote to United Airlines a route to direct flights to Houston. Again, it's a fairly low-cost study, but it's sort of pulling together all the information that we got from the airport master plan study and then filling in some of the gaps. They will hire a sub-consultant, if you will, that specializes in this sort of thing, and they know what the airlines are looking for in the way of that information. So,
And they like what they saw in this study, and that's why they feel it's worth going after.
That's correct. They feel there's enough information there to give it another go.
I think that's fantastic.
I think it's great too. I have a question though, Bob. You know, this
Sure.
this isn't the first time this has been brought up, and not since I've been on this board, but several years ago, you know, this push was made with United for the Houston route, and it was unsuccessful. What is changed, or what is different? Is this a different group of consultants? What is going to be different this time that leads us to believe that it would be successful when it was not just a few years back?
I believe it's a different consultant, but I'm not entirely sure of that. I think one of the biggest things that has changed is there's a considerable amount of traffic now with what's going on in the Permian Basin. There's a considerable amount of traffic between here and Houston in the way of charters and corporate flights and that sort of thing. So enough that they feel that it's worth maybe approaching United again. And if United were to say no, then that same information is also available to approach other airlines.
It says a little bit that American changed us to that larger jet
Yes.
as well. So,
Yeah, and I don't know how many of them they're using now, but just watching them fly over, I see a lot more of the big ones than I
not
do the
big
smaller ones.
but yeah. So, yeah, absolutely. Questions, concerns? Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any other questions, concerns from the board? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Presentation.
Excuse me, Todd,
Hold on.
who seconded that motion? I'm sorry.
Dindle.
Okay, thank you.
Presentation, discussion, and direction regarding providing a new turn lane on Loop 306 frontage road in order to obtain TxDOT access permit for the northeast corner of the intersection of Loop 306, Farm to Market 380 at the Industrial Park. Presentation by Bob Schneeman.
Thank you. As the board may recall, we had an offer to purchase 6.4 acres here on the corner. And one of the conditions of that offer was that we get them an entrance on or off of Loop 306. We've been working on this for quite a long time. The original buyer is looking elsewhere at this point, but we had Centurion Planning and Design work with TxDOT and work with us to try to facilitate that driveway permit from TxDOT. They were able to secure us this permit fairly easily, but they had to jump through a lot of hoops with TxDOT to get this one. And we finally have reached an agreement with TxDOT where we can get that driveway permit. This particular layout is just something I put together is more of a marketing tool than anything else, but the function of it was that we'd have this entrance here flow through the property and they could exit through here. This would become a common drive between this lot, and then similarly you'd have a common drive between what would be lot 2 there and this lot, and then one additional, so to provide for internal circulation. And TxDOT was pretty much on board with all of that, but again, our hang-up had been always been the access off of Loop 306. Centurion came up with the concept of doing a right turn lane dedicated to this property, and you see here, this is the 6.4 acres we've been talking about. North is to the left of the screen, by the way. So this is Warren Caterpillar, and then the 6.4 acres we're talking about. The dedicated right turn lane, Centurion estimates the cost of that will be about $73,000 to $76,000. Even though we don't have a buyer at this point, we're looking for board input on perhaps going ahead and constructing this turn lane and the drive entrance. And the reason we're doing that is we've got TxDOT approval now for that concept. If we don't get another buyer for the property for a year or so, when we come back, there is always the possibility that TxDOT criteria will have changed, and we may not be able to get that drive approach. Once we've got it, we've got it. And I think it will add value to that corner property as well. And we can entertain the idea of taking the cost of that lane and incorporating it into the cost of either just the corner lot or possibly even all 3 of these lots, and increase them a little bit. We may want to look at even padding these out and just making them a little bit more, give them a little more curb appeal. So we wanted to get board input on this, on how y'all felt about maybe going ahead with that, especially the turn lane. And Russell Pale is here. You may recognize that name. He was formerly our city engineer. He now works for Centurion. He's here to answer any questions about this as well.
My view is we have TxDOT approval, and it just makes these lots more attractive if we already have it there. And yes, we can pass along some of this cost into those other 3 lots. So
Yes, sir. Whether we could pass along all of them or not, I'm not sure, but I mean,
Yes.
that's where we would start. That's
Yeah,
certainly
just-
where we would start.
Just making them more marketable and like you said, go ahead and solidify what's already approved. So we're not having to go back and fight that battle again. So if it's already approved, I like the direction y'all are going. So.
Appreciate it.
does Russell have anything to add, or? Questions,
Well,
concerns?
Russell, you must have something to say.
What kind of a time frame are we looking at?
time frame for completing the design.
Yeah. How long?
You know, we could probably have it completed in a month or two. You know, we've got a lot of the legwork already done on this project because, like Bob was saying, you know, we've already been meeting with TxDOT and, you know, we've already put the layout together. Basically, what we need to do now is get with a geotechnical engineer to give a pavement recommendation and a foundation recommendation as well for any pads going out there. You know, just getting into the specifics now, coming up with a grading plan to make sure that this drains appropriately, as well as maybe doing a rough grading plan for the entire site. We've done some of that at this point, but, you know, we really haven't dived into a lot of the details. You know, we need to get surveying done too, a topographic survey to really nail down elevations and make sure that, you know, we're doing this appropriately. You know, and this is one entrance. I mean, and there's a lot going on here, but even on that FM 380, there's a big ditch there. We do have to account for that grade change and box culverts and a lot of the drainage going on there as well. So there's a lot going into these two drive approaches. You know, and they are gonna, you know, just this one is around $70,000, like what Bob was saying, but the other drive approach is also going to be around that same dollar figure. Just for the construction of those two. A lot of dirt work.
And the main hangup was because of the on-ramp being in close proximity, correct?
Correct, yeah. So this is the on-ramp here, getting onto the loop. You know, TxDOT doesn't want folks coming out of this drive approach and trying to cut across there. So that's basically what this is here, is a kind of like an island to force, force traffic to come in this direction.
So would this technically be another entrance to the industrial park, or just to those three lots?
It would be only really primarily service this 6.4 acres, but provide some additional service to the remaining two lots then along the FM 380 frontage. Would not really be an advantage to anybody else in the park.
I think the board is liking the way it's going.
Okay, we'll be probably bringing this back next meeting as a project.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to 6, closed session, executive session under the provision of Government Code Title 5, Open Government Ethics, Subtitle A, Open Government Chapter 551, Open Meetings, Subchapter D, exceptions to requirement that meetings be open under the following sections. Section 551.087 to deliberate regarding commercial or financial information that the board is receiving from business prospects with whom economic development negotiations are being conducted, and discuss financial or other incentives relating to the following projects. Project 2019 LSB 181, discuss Chamber of Commerce budget, rail port project update, Allen's Transport, Project MAC 2019. B, Section 551072, to deliberate the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property if the deliberation in an open meeting would have the detrimental effect on the position of the governmental body in negotiations with the third person. Sale of 12 acres plus or minus at the Business Industrial Park, purchase of 180 acres fronting the FM 2105, 1.5 miles west of Highway 277, east of the existing railroad right-of-way. We are now in closed session.
Just a moment, under A for closed session, one of them does not relate to a potential incentive with an entity that provided financial information, and that's the rail port project update.
Okay.
So you should announce that you're going to pull that, and that will not be considered in your closed session.
We are going to pull the Railport project update, and do I also need to pull, we're also going to pull the discuss Chamber of Commerce budget from closed session as well. Bueno? All right, now we're in closed session.
What's up there?
It is 9:41, Ed. 02, and we are out of executive session. We have no follow-up coming out of executive session. We will move now to announcements and consideration of future agenda items. Do we have any? Yes, sir.
Bruce Partain, CEO with the San Angelo Chamber of Commerce. Just a real quick update or a heads up on an event we're doing right here at McNeese, October 8th. It's a combination of our our 16th annual Business Expo, and we're wrapping it around the Mayor's State of the City address. So in the morning, we'll have business-to-business exhibitor-visitor exchange going on, then take a break for a really great lunch and speech, and then we'll move into the general public will be welcome till about 3:30. One thing we've added on this year is on the day before, the evening before, so October 7th, we'll do what we're calling a buyers meet suppliers, sort of a supply chain social. So I'm working on getting that put together, but our exhibitors and our sponsors, and then we're inviting people who are purchasing managers in particular to come meet with those people in kind of a social setting. You would be invited as well if you'd like to attend. We'll get some more information and a specific invitation on that, but October 7th will be the 5 to about 6:30 supply chain social, and then from about, I think we're going to open the doors around 8:30 or 9 for the Business Expo through about 3:30 with the mayor's luncheon presentation in between. So you'll see a lot more publicity. Just thought this was a good opportunity to let you guys maybe pencil it in on your calendars. So thank you very much.
Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bruce. Anything else? Do I have a motion for adjournment? For the love of God, please, somebody.
Do we have to?
I have a motion by Dr. Cummings. I have a second by Ed. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Keep your mouth shut. All right.